Ladies and gentlemen, here is your starting grid as they have qualified for the 2026 Bathurst 12 Hour. On the pole is full of supercars drivers, the 222 Scott Taylor Motorsports Mercedes driven by Cameron Waters, Chaz Mostert and Thomas Randall, while alongside them is the 77 Craft Bamboo Racing Mercedes Initial D car driven by Lucas Auer, Maximilian Gotz and Ralph Aron. Row 2, it is the Sun Energy 1 Mercedes driven by Lucas Stoltz, Kenny Habou and Jules Gounon, while alongside them is the top Porsche 911 from Absolute Racing driven by Matt Campbell, Alessio Pecorello and Bastian Buss. Row 3, the top Audi from GMAC Racing Team driven by Christopher Haas, Brad Schumacher and Will Brown, while alongside them is the top bronze Lamborghini team driven by Marco Mappelli, Tono D'Alberto, Grant Danier and Adrian Detz. Row 4 is Team WRT's 46 BMW driven by Rafael Marciello, Augusto Farfez and Valentino Rossi. Alongside them is the top Pro-Am team of Greater Vermont Racing driven by Scott Andrews, Brendan Leach, Marcel Zola and Sergio Perez. Row 5 of the only Ford Mustang for HRT driven by Brock Feeney, Dennis Olsen and Christopher Meese. Alongside them it is the Takani Motorsports Mercedes driven by Jane Ojeda, Fabian Scheller and Philip Ellis. Row 6, a Team KRC BMW driven by Max Hess, Kufan Round and Maxime Ostin, while alongside them it is the other Team WRT BMW 32 driven by Kelvin van der Linde, Jordan Pepper and Charles Wirtz. Row 7 belongs to bronze rated teams. The number 9 Hallmark Racing Audi driven by Lee Holdsworth, Mark Cini and Dean Fiore. Alongside them the other Audi of Quinn Racing driven by Ryder Quinn, Tony Quinn, Kent Quinn and Clark Quinn. Row 8 for Earl Bamber Motorsports, the Porsche 61 driven by Lauren Heinrich, Ricardo Feller and Klaus Bachler. While alongside them is the only pro McLaren team of Optimum Motorsports driven by Marvin Kirchhoff, Garner Patterson and Ben Barnacle. Row 9, the 193 Ziggo Sport Tempesta driven by Ryan Wood, Christopher Froggatt, Jonathan Hui and Lorenzo Petresi. Alongside them is the 268 Team BRM Audi driven by Alex Peroni, Steve Brooks, Mark Rosa and James Golding. Row 10, very deep in the field is the A-Rise GT Ferrari driven by Jackson Evans, Davide Regon and Daniel Serra, while alongside them is the Ram Motorsport GWR Australia Mercedes driven by Dylan O'Keefe, Brett Hobson and Garth Warden. Row 11, the Supercars Team Grove Racing Mercedes driven by Kai Allen, Will Davison and Brenton Grove, while alongside them it is the 79 Tsunami RT Porsche driven by Alex Fontana, Johanna Zegler and Fabio Babini. Row 12, the second Tagani Motorsport Mercedes driven by David Russell, James Condoras, Theo Condoras and Zach Bates, while alongside them is the number 21 Herbert Motorsports Porsche driven by Robert Renoir, Ralph Braun and Alfred Renoir. Row 13 belongs to Corvette Racing of the number 2 driven by Earl Bamber, Alexander Sims and Nicky Katzberg, while alongside them is the 99 Pro-Am Corvette driven by Ben Green, Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim and Jordan Love. Row 14 belongs to Volante Rosa Motorsport Aston Martin driven by Bryce Forward, Damian Hamilton, Andres Pato and Maxime Robin. Alongside them is the Heart of Racing Mercedes driven by Roman DeAngelis, Ian James and Eduardo Barrichello. Row 15 is the other Volante Rosa McLaren this time driven by Marcus Flack, Bailey Hall, Rylan Gray and Jean-Baptiste Samaner. Alongside them is one of 2 Class Invitational cars, the KTM Expo GT2 driven by Glenn Wood, David Crampton and Trent Harrison. Row 16, a very big surprise with the Mercedes Team GMR AAA driven by Mara Engel, Mikhail Grenner and Maxime Martin. Alongside them is the number 86 High Class Racing Porsche driven by Kieron Lee, Andres Folkbach and Dorian Bokalaki. And finally, row 17, the final class Invitational 111 RC GT driven by Darren Curry, Axel Donaldson and Daniel Stuttard. Alongside them is the only GT4 car, that being the McLaren driven by Adrian Kunsley, Kevin Madsen and Steve Akakini. Only one car has withdrawn from this event, that being the number 17 New Zealand Aston Martin driven by Graham Dowsett, Roman Leroy and Chris Vanderdrift due to an incident in practice. And ladies and gentlemen, there is your starting grid for the 2026 Bathurst 12 Hour.